أشهد
أشهد
أن
أن
لا إله
لا إله
إلا الله
إلا الله
وأشهد
وأشهد
أن
أن
محمدا
محمدا
عبده
عبده
ورسوله.
ورسوله.
I bear witness
أشهد
أن
أن
لا
لا
إله
إله
إلا
إلا
الله
الله
وأشهد
وأشهد
أن
أن
محمدا
محمدا
رسول
رسول
الله
الله
وأن
Hello Muslim friends of the world. Muslims in the Netherlands number around 1 million people. They are citizens and immigrants. This number covers 4 to 5% of the population of 16 million people. From these figures, the Netherlands also has a special position in the eyes of European Muslims. The Netherlands is the second European country with the largest Muslim population, in terms of population percentage, after France. Islam is the religion with the fastest development. This seems to be inseparable from the relationship between Islam and the Netherlands, which has had a long history, even since the 17th century. Therefore, the contribution of Muslims to the progress achieved by the Netherlands is very large. And the large contribution of Muslims can color state policies in respecting religious freedom and tolerance. At first, the interaction between the Dutch Muslim community and the local community went well. Residents also respect the beliefs of Muslims. And Muslims began to build a number of places of worship. Reciting the call to prayer is also permitted, even with a loudspeaker, even if only once a week. Dutch Muslims also established a number of slaughterhouses, RPH, and they also practice slaughtering methods according to the teachings of Sharia, Islam. A number of offices provide Muslim employees with prayer facilities during Ramadan fasting and holidays. However, these intimate times have begun to face serious tests, especially since the beginning of the 21st century. Anti-Islam sentiment is increasingly widespread due to provocations and negative accusations against religion and Muslims. Therefore, Muslims must work hard to ward off negative accusations made by anti-Islam groups. Orientalists and anti-Islam circles continue to instill fear and hatred towards Muslims and Islam in society. They are worried that Islam will grow rapidly in Europe, including the Netherlands. They think that if that happens, it will threaten the culture and values they adhere to. A very excessive excuse and phobia. Fear has even reached the level of hatred. Some people are now no longer reluctant to support groups that often discredit the Islamic religion. Voices to take away Muslim rights, close mosques, force Muslims to follow Western lifestyles, continue to be raised. Likewise with the ban on the hijab, headscarf, and terrorism. Now, Muslims in the Netherlands are truly entering a period full of trials and tests. The climax occurred when the famous columnist and filmmaker, Theo van Gogh, was murdered in Amsterdam in 2004. Theo is the maker of the controversial film Submission, which tells the story of the abuse that Muslim women are said to often experience at the hands of their husbands. This murder shocked Dutch society, especially after it was discovered that the perpetrator was a Muslim immigrant from Morocco. The motive for the murder is thought to be Van Gogh's opinion, which was very insulting to Muslims and often provoked him. Sociologist Dick Pels, quoted from the Dutch radio site wereldoomisteroep.nl, said that the face of the Netherlands seemed to have changed after Van Gogh was killed. A number of groups took advantage of this moment, one of the famous ones being Geert Wilders, a member of the Dutch parliament. Since the murder occurred, many people think that Islam is a threat. And Wilders made good use of that, said Dick Pels. According to him, there are similarities between Van Gogh and Wilders. Both of them share a fear of the Islamization of culture. That is what makes him continue to speak anti-Islam. Several years ago, Wilders angered the Dutch Muslim community with plans to show the film Fitna, which insults Islam. As if he was not satisfied, Wilders initiated a draft law regarding restrictions on the hijab, burqa. He proposed that every Muslim woman who wants to wear the hijab should ask for permission, and pay €1,000 a year for the privilege. We are fed up with the hijab. We do everything we can to reduce the use of the hijab. We have drafted a law banning the burqa, he said on the rnw.nl website. The most common argument from the statements of a number of observers regarding this series of events, explains the article on the opendemocracy.net site, is that the foundations of tolerance and multiculturalism in society are not yet strong. As a consequence, it is feared that the Netherlands will face an identity crisis. This requires re-examining essential principles in society, in order to be able to prioritize tolerance in a stronger position, wrote the article. Referring to projections in 2050, human demographics based on religious affiliation can be stated that 22% of around 7 billion people are Muslims. This means that for every 100 people gathered there are at least 22 people who are Muslim. If there are no major events such as a global pandemic, the growth of Muslims will continue to increase, where now the average increase in the number of Muslims in the world is 235%, while the global increase in human numbers is predicted to be 137%. That means, the percentage increase in Muslims is twice as large as the increase in human numbers. Uniquely, Islam will develop in European countries around 142%, in the Pacific around 257%, and in America, northern part, around 25%. Growth in the number of Muslims is relatively low in Africa, namely around 2%. The predictions above illustrate that Muslims will increase in number in developed countries, who are relatively likely to have critical and rational thinking. In the Netherlands, there are 4 cities with concentrations of Muslim communities, namely Amsterdam, Utrecht, Rotterdam, and The Hague. Amsterdam is in first place with Muslim presentation reaching 17% of the city's total population. A big presentation when compared nationally, where Muslims only make up 5% of the demographics of the windmill country. However, not only in the capital city of Amsterdam, the movement of Dutch Muslims is also very visible in the city of Utrecht. The 4th largest city in the Netherlands is home to around 45,000 Muslims, or around 14% of the city's total population. According to the Euro-Islam website, many Dutch Muslim events or activities take place in Utrecht, apart from the capital Amsterdam. Utrecht's Muslim community is mostly in immigrant areas. Considering that they are indeed immigrants, even though there are not a small number of Muslims among native Dutch citizens. If you look at the history of Islam in the Netherlands, Islam came with immigrants from Indonesia in 1945. Some of them were former KNIL soldiers. The number of Muslims among them is around 1,000 people. However, Indonesian immigrants did not play much of a role in the initial formation of the Muslim community in the Netherlands. The new Muslim community began to appear when immigrants from Suriname arrived. Their numbers have continued to increase since they first arrived in the 1960s, when there were only 5,000 people. Until the 1980s, their number had reached 30,000 people. The Muslim community was formed from Surinamese and Indonesian immigrants. Then, during its development, immigrants from the Middle East arrived who joined in enlivening the Muslim ethnicity in the kingdom. They come from Turkey, Morocco, Tunisia, and other Middle Eastern countries.